Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. It's Anthony Cosenza with the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast and Cincy Jungle coming at you live as of Tuesday afternoon, bringing you all kinds of different news and headlines around the Cincinnati Bengals, around the AFC North, and around the rest of the NFL as we get set for the Bengals to kick off everything for week 4 on Thursday night. Obviously, they are hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars, a big night in Cincinnati. They are honoring the Ring of Honor inductees. They are honoring the 1981 AFC Championship team at that game. And I know a lot of my colleagues and friends and those in Bengals Nation will be on hand in attendance. So if you are going to that game, hope you have a great time and or obviously, go have some fun and hopefully watch the Bengals win, obviously. So that's what we want to see. At any rate, we've got a lot to get to here today. We've got a lot of Bengals headlines. We've got some stuff to digest with the AFC North. We've got standings to get through. There's stuff on other sites that have a 2022 mock draft. There's some power ranking stuff. There's a lot we're going to talk about here. But before we do, just want to remind everybody that this is one of a number of episodes that OBI puts out. We call this the water cooler chat because obviously if you had been in an office setting at some point, usually there was a little water cooler. You'd go get your cup of water and shoot the you-know-what. I'm not going to pull an Eli Manning and curse on the air, on live air or whatever like he did last night if you watched that. But you used to talk about football, talk about all kinds of stuff going on. And that's kind of what we do here. We kind of powwow and talk about some headlines going on with the Cincinnati Bengals and the rest of the league. This is just one of a few episodes. We've got this episode. We do our deep dive analysis episode with John Sheeran and myself. We do a little bit of fantasy talk with our buddy, the Orange Arrow. We're bringing in some guests weekly now to preview the game and get a look on the other side of the fence there. So we're doing that. We're doing listener questions live. We're doing a lot of different stuff and, of course, post-game shows. But we are one of just a few of the shows on the Cincy Jungle Podcast Network. So if you like our show, you can also check out Orange is the New Black from Mason Zim. You can check out what Matt Minnick is doing on his Chalk Talk episodes and all of that. They are available on your favorite audio streamer. So you can go and check those out, download it how you can. Leave us a rating if you would. And we appreciate the support there. And of course, you can always, if you like the video stuff, you can try and catch us live on our YouTube channel or after the fact as well. We're on Cincy Jungle's Facebook page. We're in a lot of different stuff. No excuses to not get this kind of Bengals material there. Let's start it off. The Bengals are coming off a huge win, to say the very least, against their hated rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let's just start with a little bit of how we got to this nice 24-10 win at Heinz Field by the Bengals and some of the stuff coming out in the aftermath here. Tyler Boyd, this is an article on cincyjungle.com. Tyler Boyd set the tone in the win over the Steelers. We'll put this link in the live chats for you so you can check out this article if you have not. Really, Nathan Bagley there of cincyjungle.com kind of notes that physical run after the catch to dart into the end zone. He also had a nice play early on where he had a tough catch along the sideline, kind of got tossed out of bounds. Trent Green on the telecast thought that should have been a personal foul on Sutton, but it was not called. And then he had that nice touchdown catch where he bounced off of Melvin Ingram and dove into the end zone. Really nice play. But the other part of this too comes from and this is a tweet I will share from Cincinnati Enquirer reporter Charlie Goldsmith. This was stuff that Boyd was saying both on Sunday and Monday. Basically said the Bengals made the Steelers give up yesterday, kind of broke their will. For a team to lay down like that before the game is over, they portrayed it to the whole nation on TV and how they gave up. Really what he was referencing there was a bit of the he was basically referencing a bit of the drops at the end of the game and that one play where the Steelers went for it on 4th and goal from like their own 10-yard line, or maybe it was a 4th and 10. They could have got a first down, and they throw an inexplicable swing pass behind the line of scrimmage that doesn't even net them a yard. it was a really, really odd sequence of events and not ones that we are accustomed to seeing. And I've said this a little bit. If you follow me on Twitter at CJ Anthony CUI, and or if you're going to read a post of mine breaking down a little bit of the win here on CincyJungle.com. There were some plays there at the beginning of the game and really into the third quarter where the Steelers were trying to goad the Bengals maybe into a penalty. There was kind of a little late, real minor shove by Minka Fitzpatrick on CJ Uzomah on the first drive. And that play I mentioned with Sutton kind of flipping Tyler Boyd out of bounds. That was kind of, I guess, questionable in some eyes. And then there was a hit in the third quarter on Mixon after he had a nice gain from Cam Hayward where he kind of dove in late towards Joe Mixon's upper part of his body. And, all that stuff's on my Twitter account. If you need to go back and see it or go back and rewatch it, you can see some of that stuff. And the Bengals didn't bite. The Bengals didn't bite. And as they continued to beat them on the field with their play, with players like Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, et cetera, Logan Wilson making these big plays, they kind of seemingly broke the Steelers' will, which is not something that we can say very often as it goes with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers in this rivalry. So at any rate, there were opportunities for the Bengals to lose their cool. And in instances past, we have seen that, unfortunately, at the hands of the Steelers, and they didn't do it this time. They didn't do it. So kudos to the Bengals, kudos to Zach Taylor and, other Bengals players who have stepped up and, kind of said and did what they were supposed to do here. Now, here, speaking of players that really stepped up and maybe shared a little bit of some tricks of the trade here. This is from Bengals.com's Jeff Hobson, and you can see here memorable pregame speech at the Hilton. Mike Hilton, who has been one of my ever since they signed him, he's been one of my favorite free agency acquisitions, not just because of what he does on the field, and he hasn't been the highest producer on the field comparative to their other free agency acquisitions or trade acquisitions. If you want to note Larry Ogunjobi, BJ Hill, Trey Hendrickson, all those guys coming in and playing very well for the Bengals. Hilton hasn't had the big plays like that, but he's been part of a defense that has played very well. But the other thing that Tyler Boyd talked about here, and you can find this on Bengals.com. This was a little bit of a report here. I'm going to find the actual quotes here, but Mike Hilton addressed the team a couple of times here before the game. And here's the proper point. I just didn't want to scroll here while you guys are sitting there watching. I don't want to keep scrolling. So this is, again, a Bengals notebook on Bengals.com. You can see here a rivalry shifts. Taylor sent out two players with big Pittsburgh connections for the coin toss. And of course, Hilton was one of them. And he made a lasting contribution during the week with a speech to the defense and another speech the night before the game in a downtown Pittsburgh hotel that might as well have been the Hilton. Tyler Boyd talked about that in his press conference as well. We don't know exactly what was said. I mean, obviously there was probably a pump up aspect to this, but I almost wonder if Mike Hilton divulged a few secrets from being on the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they view this rivalry, how they think they can beat the Bengals, and maybe even telling them, hey, they're going to try and get under your skin. That is the game plan. And there's stuff on film that the Bengals could have, like I said, could have lost their cool, and they did not. So Mike Hilton, kind of an unsung MVP of the week. Tyler Boyd said that his message and his speeches resonated with the team, and I think you can kind of give a little tip of the cap. Even though he didn't make the interceptions that Logan Wilson made, he didn't have the touchdowns that Jamar Chase made, he didn't have the sacks that Trey Hendrickson and others had, but he was a guy that was kind of the emotional or spiritual leader of the locker room for the week. So kudos to Mike Hilton and embracing that role. And that's one of the things, yeah, he's productive on the field, but that's one of the things that you wanted to bring in with this guy in free agency, that Steelers mentality, learn how to beat your biggest rival and hopefully do so on a consistent basis. So yeah, good stuff here. I'm seeing some other of you comment on Mike Hilton here. Let's continue on with more aftermath of the Bengals beating the Steelers. This is a nice article from my colleague and co-host John Sheeran. It's the Rookie Report. He does these and the Weekly Lineman as two great posts on. Maybe we'll start adding the Weekly Lineman videos to our YouTube channel. We'll see if John would be willing to do that. I think we did that a couple times. At any rate, here we go. Rookie stock report. Jamar Chase, obviously very exciting. And hey, Jackson Carman, not a bad first start for him going on the road in Pittsburgh and playing that defense. Yes, there's no TJ Watt. Yes, there was no Alex Highsmith, but kudos to him. He played pretty well. More on that in just a second. But stock rising, of course, Jamar Chase. This is a little bit of a blurb from John Sheeran's post here on Cincy Jungle. 4 touchdown receptions in 3 games. 3 of them are 34-plus yards. The Bengals had only 2 touchdowns of 20-plus air yards last year, and already he's bettering that by himself. So what an addition he has been. And then, of course, Jackson Carman, a little bit of ups and downs here. There's kind of an interesting parallel, by the way, Chase and Calvin Ridley there. You can see very similar production in their first couple of games. He did note stock stagnating with Cam Sample. I thought that was interesting. He did have a sack, but hey, look, he's coming in there as a rotational guy. He doesn't need to light it up every single snap he is in there. He is in there on a limited basis, a rotational basis. But if he can get that occasional sack, those occasional pressures, I think we'll take it. So good write-up there by John. And obviously continuing the chorus line that some of these rookies are contributing. That couldn't really be said in the first couple of classes by Zach Taylor, at least not on a consistent basis, not your highest picks. So now you've got Jamar Chase lighting it up, your number 5 overall pick. You've got Jackson Carman looking like he's going to get the start on Thursday night, a short week. Xavier Su'a-Filo still nursing a leg injury there. So it looks like Jackson Carman's going to get the start once again at right guard, and we'll have to see what happens there. You know, unfortunate for Su'a-Filo that an injury maybe takes the opportunity away from him, but, you know, he was kind of playing meh football for the team. And if Jackson Carman is a developmental guy that can give you at least that, if not more, and grow into a nice player, might be the direction that the Bengals need to go. Let's keep talking a little bit about Jamar Chase, who, oh, by the way, go to NFL.com and vote for him for the Rookie of the Week. He is up there, as is Najee Harris, believe it or not, mostly because Najee Harris had, the 14 catches for over 100 yards receiving. But Jamar Chase makes history against the Steelers. This is updated. Turns out that Jamar Chase joined even more rarefied air by hauling in 2 touchdowns today. And the Bengals, today obviously being Sunday when this was written, the Bengals 24-10 win over the Steelers. Chase is now the youngest player in NFL history to catch 4 touchdowns in his first 3 games. The man he surpassed to reach this mark is Pro Football Hall of Fame selection Randy Moss, who, oh, by the way, his son is on the Bengals, Thad Moss. Here you go, NFL research. With 2 receiving touchdowns today, Jamar Chase became the youngest player and first 21-year-old in NFL history to have 4 or more receiving touchdowns in his first 3 games of the season. So, I mean, I love me some Penei Sewell, and he's doing some decent things with the Detroit Lions, but I think at least for now we can put this discussion to bed. Jamar Chase is doing the things that he was advertised to bring to the Bengals when they selected him and when they were even thinking about selecting him before the pick was actually made. And he's bringing a dimension to the offense that has not been here for a while. John Ross couldn't provide this because he couldn't hang on to the ball or get onto the field, even though he had that world-class speed. AJ Green, he missed all of 2019, didn't seem to have that much in the tank. By the way, AJ Green, nice game this weekend, passing 100 yards for the Cardinals. However, just was not the same deep threat guy for the Bengals last year. And so that had been missing for a few years now, has this deep threat. And Chase is bringing a new dimension to this team. You got to like what he is doing and really shutting a lot of people up. Gotta like that. Continuing on with just more accolades, more marks for the Bengals, and just different headlines that the Bengals have been able to achieve in this big win against Pittsburgh. And these are the kinds of things, too, that make it such a big win. People are like, wow, the Steelers team was down. They didn't have some of their best defensive players, and their offensive line isn't the same. Sure, the Bengals were missing a couple of important players as well, but it's the fact that they not only took care of business, they took care of business on the road and won by 2 touchdowns and are kind of getting over these hurdles that are both mental and physical. Like this headline here, Bengals snap 75-game streak of having at least one quarterback sack. And that's from my colleague Drew Garrison there, a newer addition to Cincy Jungle's staff. And 75 straight games of having at least one quarterback sack. That is something that the Steelers have, and I think, I don't know if it's mentioned in here, but I think the next closest was like 13 straight games, I want to say. I have to go look that up, but I mean, it wasn't even close in terms of who the next team was for the amount of games straight with a quarterback sack. So good, and then Kelsey Conway tweets out, Joe Burrow said he didn't feel anything on the right side where Jackson Carman was starting, a very good sign for the Bengals. Gotta like that kind of stuff. The offensive line didn't play a perfect game. There were a couple of penalties. Yes, there were some poor PFF grades along the line, but 0 sacks by Joe Burrow. Jackson Carman, we'll get here in just a sec. Jackson Carman having the highest pass blocking score of the afternoon for the Cincinnati Bengals against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here we go right here. One of my newer favorite Twitter follows, Andrew Russell at PFF_Andrew R. Pass blocking grades for the Bengals starting O-line versus Pittsburgh. You see Williams had 52.7. Reef, 68. He's quietly being a valuable player. He left the game with an ankle injury, is still dealing with that. I think the prevailing thought, we'll get to that in just a sec, is that he will play, but we'll have to see. In Jackson Carman, you see they're barely eking him out for the best pass blocking score of the afternoon at 68.8 by PFF standards. Both quarterback pressures were charged to Spain, and with only 22 pass block snaps, a single error really hurts the grade. That makes sense. I mean, the Bengals at one point didn't really have the ball very often. They didn't throw the ball as often. Only 18 attempts by Burrow, obviously ran a few times as well. So that's where you see the 22 pass block snaps. Burrow had 5 rushes. 4 of those were off broken plays, and 1 was that design draw play where he never was really dropping back to throw. So that's where you get those stats there. But Carman getting the highest pass blocking grade here and looking like he will get the start once again at Paul Brown Stadium against Jacksonville. So we will see here just a couple more nice scores from the other players in the offense. Again, from Andrew Russell, noting some PFF scores. Joe Burrow having the highest graded game of his career at 90.3. Jamar Chase, 77.9. Auden Tate, 73.4. Joe Mixon, 72. Jonah Williams overall, 65.9. So that pass block score dropped him a bit, obviously doing well in the run game to get that average up to 65.9. So those are some of the top scorers here. And I thought this was interesting from our buddies over at the Right Way Sports Network. Daniel Alameda over there shared a nice statistic. Chidobe Awuzie has the lowest completion percentage when targeted in the NFL, 43.8%, proving to be one of the most underrated signings of the offseason. A great statistic there. Unfortunately, had to leave the game early. We don't know if he's going to play. That we're waiting on the Tuesday practice report and injury report right now, but he may not suit up this week, unfortunately, just because of the short week. But we may be seeing Trey Waynes make his first start as a Bengal since being signed last offseason. He seems to be getting closer. We will see what happens here. But Awuzie playing very, very good football. And you could see the difference when he left the game with an injury. I believe it was a groin injury. You could see the difference in the game when he left the game in terms of play from Darius Phillips, Eli Apple. He's just been a really solid player for the team, keeping a lot of things in front of the Bengals defense and not allowing those big plays. The Bengals have not let up a play of 40+ yards, a pass play of 40+ yards, or any play really of 40+ yards, which is something that has killed this defense. They're top 5 or top 10 in a lot of different defensive statistical metrics, whether that's sacks in the league, quarterback rating, there's rushing yards allowed. There's a lot of different areas in which the Bengals defense has really kept things in check and kept the Bengals in games And you look back at that week 2, man, and you sit here and you go, whew, this team very easily could be 3-0. Very, very easily could be 3-0. But at any rate, good stuff from the Twitter sphere in terms of some PFF scores, different metrics. Let's before we kind of move into previewing what's coming up on the Jacksonville game. You can look at some of the snap counts, and then young players had to step into bigger roles here. Davis Gaither was out there quite a bit. I did see that. So here are some of the snap counts. This is on cincyjungle.com. You see Hopkins playing 100% of the snaps. Still some struggles from Hopkins this week. Hilton out there for 88% of the snaps. Awuzie, again, only played the 41 snaps, had to leave the game with that injury. So Jalen Davis getting a couple more snaps. Of course, Darius Phillips getting a higher increase because of that injury. Eli Apple had to be out there for all snaps. Trey Hendrickson still only getting 72% of the snaps, but making them count. I kind of figured he would be getting a few more snaps, but they're using that rotation nicely. Sample in there. He got the sack for 31 plays. Hubbard playing very, very well, 64 plays there. He had a sack, and then I think he had the quarterback hit where that ball was one that Logan Wilson picked off there. So, Hubbard playing really, really well. Wyatt Ray getting in there for 15 snaps. DJ Reader in there for 46. This is what you like to see here. Look at the 4 defensive tackles. Just a nice rotation there, keeping them fresh. Reader having a good year. Ogunjobi doing a lot of nice things. Tupou playing pretty well, and BJ Hill, you see there, you got 55% of snaps from Reader. Ogunjobi in there 69%. Tupou in there 29%. BJ Hill in there 40%. Another sack from Hill this week. So, you got to like that. Logan Wilson out there often making plays, 81% of the plays. Pratt out there 43%. As I said, Davis Gaither out there 54% of the plays, 45 total plays. He was out there in pass coverage quite a bit. Of course, the linemen, Jackson Carman, Quentin Spain, Jonah Williams, all had 100% of the snaps. I mentioned that Reef left the game briefly with an injury, still played 96% of the snaps. Prince in there, a couple of jumbo packages where Prince was in there. So he had 7 plays, and then he came in relief of Reef. Say that 3 times fast. Joe Burrow, of course, playing 100% of the snaps. So, Mixon in there 74%. P. Ryan in there a quiet 10 snaps. Evans in there 5 snaps, had a couple of nice catches. Bell and Bates playing 100% of the snaps. So Boyd in there 79%. Mike Thomas in there 21%, getting more looks because T. Higgins not in this one. So at any rate, just kind of an interesting set of snap counts and all kinds of different things pointing to not only the Bengals kind of unfortunately accumulating a few more injuries, but also their trust in these rookie and year 2 guys making the next nice leap going forward here. Here, let's transition into what's shaping up for the and I haven't seen, obviously, I've been on the air here. I don't know if the Tuesday practice report has come out. I'll take a quick look in case I missed that. But this is one from Cincy Jungle. This was Monday's report. Now they kind of had a simulated injury report because they didn't have an actual practice. So they kind of did a simulated, hey, here's what would have happened if we had a practice today, short week and all that kind of stuff. So this is I'm sorry. I'll get to that in a sec. This is a different article. The Bengals are just opening as touchdown favorites for Thursday Night Football. So I've seen it. The line also at 7.5. This was as of this morning. So I apologize. I pulled up the wrong initial article here. But the Bengals are opening as touchdown favorites or around a touchdown favorite Thursday Night Football. A little bit. This is a game they should win. There's going to be a lot of emotion to this one, but short week, big win off of a divisional opponent. I just hope there's not the trap game thing going on here. I don't think there will be, but just makes me a little nervous. I've seen too much Bengals football, folks. I think that's my problem. Here is the injury report. I think this one was as of Monday. I'll take a quick look as well to see if a Tuesday injury report has come out here. But you can see here, this was as of Monday. Kind of some defensive line and offensive line issues for Jacksonville, though Roy Robertson Harris on the defense, Cam Robinson and Andrew Norwell on the offense all were limited. Trey Herndon full. So you would see here if the Bengals were practicing on Monday, Awuzie would not have practiced, nor would have Bates with a neck injury, which is a little concerning. T. Higgins still nursing that shoulder injury. Riley Reif with that ankle. Maybe that would be a little bit more of a veteran rest. We'll see. It's sounding like Su'a-Filo is not going to get the start, especially after what they saw from Jackson Carman this last week. And then you see a couple of limited guys on defense. Now, Trey Waynes being limited is a good sign, but we will see here. And you've got Awuzie, you've got Phillips, and you've got Waynes all on the cornerback the cornerback injury report. That is not good news. The Bengals need to get healthy at that position there, and hopefully all three, if not definitely two of those three, will be playing. But that is as of Monday. So the Bengals are a little more banged up right now than they were going into this season. I'm going to take a quick peek to see if there is an injury report here, but we're going to keep rolling on. If someone does happen to see it, tip me off if you could, because I'm doing a lot of different things on the air right now, but we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. Speaking of Tyler Boyd and his interesting and controversial to some comments about the Cincinnati Bengals and the Steelers kind of, the Steelers kind of folding at the end there. A couple of drop passes. They had that 4th and goal where they just did a swing pass, and just very uncharacteristic with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very uncharacteristic. Well, Mike Tomlin was supposedly asked about that at a press conference today. In response to it, this is from the Twitter account Steelers Now. Let me pull this up for you all here. And this, I guess I don't know what else you would have expected him to say, but Mike Tomlin was direct when, here's the Steelers Now. Head coach Mike Tomlin was direct when asked about Bengals wide receiver Tyler Boyd's comments suggesting the Steelers gave up late in the game. Quote, "I don't care about Tyler Boyd's opinion regarding what transpired at any point in that game." Some folks are saying this is bulletin board material for the rematch later in the year. We'll see. But I don't really expect Mike Tomlin to say much else besides that, nor do I expect him to be pleased about hearing what Tyler Boyd had said about that. But that is a little bit of what he had to say about that. Not, I'm sure he was pretty displeased a little bit on that. I'm not seeing. I'm looking for a couple of different things here. I'm not seeing something I'm specifically looking for, so I'm going to keep moving on. But before I do, I want to tell you all about our partnership with Symbol. And Symbol is the stock market for sports. And not only is it a must play for all of you who do fantasy football, who do survival football. By the way, Cincinnati, I'm sure, is a popular pick this week in survival football. But you can also, by using the promo code OBI, of course, short for Orange and Black Insider, you can get a free week of Symbol Gold when you use that promo code. Sign up with your deposit there. Now, Symbol, you can, if you play the stock market, you're used to the idea of buying shares in specific things and either hanging on to them for a period of time, selling them off quickly, whatever the case may be. But this is an opportunity for you to either make a long-term investment in a particular team, whether that is the Cincinnati Bengals, whether that is another team in the NFL, whether it's a college team, basketball's coming up, all that kind of stuff. They do all the sports. So it's not just relegated to the Cincinnati Bengals, and the benefits that you get from using our promo code are not strictly to the Bengals. But go to symbol.app symbol.app/OBI. I think I put that in the live chats here. Go there, use the promo code OBI, get that free week of Symbol Gold. I know a lot of you, when we first partnered with Symbol earlier this year, invested in the Bengals, and you probably look like a very smart person at this point in time because you probably have made quite a bit of money on your investment there, especially as they sit here at 2-1. So go to symbol.app/OBI, symbol, of course, being spelled SIMBULL. And it's the stock market for sports. If you play fantasy football, like I said, if you play survival, if you do stuff in the stock market, you gotta check out Symbol. It's fun, and you get some perks by using our promo code. So go check it out. Continuing on with the Steelers and some news there. Not the happiest of times in Steeler Nation, as evidenced by Mike Tomlin's comments there. This is just a little bit of roster news. They signed Derek Tuzka. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He was elevated from the practice squad for week 3 and played more than half of the defensive snaps. This is on Behind the Steel Curtain there. They waived Jameer Jones with the promotion of linebacker Derek Tuzka to the 53-man roster. So a little bit of roster news there. And obviously they're trying to do some things at the linebacker spot, at the edge rusher spot, and they're just a little decimated at the front parts of their defense, and they're trying to make some moves there. Speaking of Jamar Chase being up for the NFL's Rookie of the Week award, so is Browns defender Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So he had they call him JOK. He was one of the top defenders that helped the Browns defense make history against the Bears on Sunday. Did I read somewhere that the Bears had 1 net passing yards based on sacks and all kinds of stuff? If so, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, vital role in limiting Chicago to 47 net total yards and 1 net passing yard. I was right. Oh my gosh. Both the lowest a Browns defense has ever held an opponent to. He had 4 tackles, a quarterback hit, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 passes defensed. Did the second-round linebacker. So he is up for the Rookie of the Week, and you can go to NFL.com to vote for – I would hope you'd vote for Jamar Chase if you're a Bengals fan instead of a Browns fan. But, hey, he played well for the defense, so kudos to him, looking like a good pick by the Browns there. We've talked about how the Bengals have a big night honoring their Ring of Honor and unveiling that on Thursday night against Jacksonville. The Ravens have had one for a little while longer, and Haloti Ngata, one of their best defensive players, probably a guy who will be in Hall of Fame contention. I would think Haloti Ngata is going to join the Ravens Ring of Honor. Big guy out of Oregon, and played very, very well for them for a long time. And so he's going to join the Ravens Ring of Honor, is Haloti Ngata. So a little bit of Ravens news there. And then a friend, a guy who made a brief stop with Cincinnati last year, was a nice veteran presence on their roster. This is also on BaltimoreRavens.com, courtesy of Ryan Mink. Josh Bynes is joined. He's kind of been on their practice squad. He was a late add this summer. He is joining the 53-man roster. Nate McCrary is returning to the Ravens practice squad. So Josh Bynes, a guy who played significant snaps and games with the Bengals last year and was a nice presence, a calming presence with all of the rookie linebackers the Bengals collected last year. Bynes goes back to Baltimore and is elevated to their 53-man roster as of this week. So familiar face. We'll see what happens if he's still there when the Bengals face off against the Ravens in one of their first 2 coming up here. But Bynes is with the Ravens and is back on their 53-man roster. Going to some NFL. This is a little bit of AFC North / nice segue into full-blown NFL news, but it's mock draft season already. Did you know that? We're in week 4, and CBS Sports is already doing a 2022 NFL mock draft. The Steelers, and the reason this is just kind of jumped out at me, of course, is the Bengals beat the Steelers, and there's a lot of talk about Ben Roethlisberger's future. Is he done? Is he done in Pittsburgh? What will they do? And they do not have a succession plan in place for Ben Roethlisberger, clearly. So now the Bengals kind of are starting a little bit of chatter for the Pittsburgh Steelers grabbing a quarterback talk. you see here, Kayvon Thibodeau. If you don't know him, you know, for those who don't watch Pac-12 football, he is a stud defensive lineman out of Oregon. It's just a really, really athletic player. They have the Jets picking first overall, and they take Thibodeau. Jags get offensive line help there with Evan Neal from Alabama. Stingley Jr., the star cornerback out of LSU, going to Houston at pick 3. Lions getting a defensive lineman, DeMarvin Leal, with their pick. Let's kind of scoot down here. Giants having back-to-back picks. They're both going defense. They have the Bengals slated at pick 8, so we'll see. And they have them picking a safety out of Notre Dame, a big safety, 6'4", 219, Kyle Hamilton. And I think the deal there is about Jesse Bates. Now, I will say this. I don't believe this pick because the Bengals traditionally do not pick safeties in the first round. Last one I think I can remember, they use the second round quite often on safeties. Jesse Bates and they've had Mediu Williams and others that they've picked in the second round. I don't really see this being especially a top 10 pick. If the Bengals were to land in the top 10, I don't see them taking a safety as the top 10. In the top 10, they would probably wait, or they probably still want to try and do something with Jesse Bates, franchise tag him, so that may wait. But they do have the Bengals taking Hamilton at number 8, and then they've got Matt Corral, the Ole Miss quarterback, going to Pittsburgh at number 10. So they have the Steelers pretty much finishing with a better record than the Bengals at this point. But they do have the Steelers taking a quarterback, Matt Corral, out of Ole Miss, 6'2", 205. So, and it says here, the write-up is Corral has the tools to be a Lamar Jackson / Trey Lance / Josh Allen type quarterback, but he's still incredibly raw. The time is now in Pittsburgh, however, where we can envision a situation where Big Ben returns. So we will see. By the way, we've also seen Big Ben make physical and on-field play type of rebounds that not a lot of quarterbacks have made. So there's a lot of season left. It looks not great for the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger, I will say that. But we have seen Ben Roethlisberger come back from a lot of different things to play at a high level. I'm not ready to fully count him out, even with what I saw this last week. Here's a power rankings post from CBS Sports as well. Pete Prisco usually does these, and he's the one who does this one too. He usually is pretty generous to the Bengals in terms of where he places them. He was pretty harsh on them. He had them in the mid and late 20s, I think, even after their win, but he has them having the biggest positive jump, with the Steelers having the biggest negative jump. Here you see 8 spots for each right there. Bengals jump up 8 in his list. Steelers drop 8 spots in his list. He's got the Rams as the number 1 team right now. The Cardinals right there, also at 3-0. He's got the Packers at 2-1 right there. Bucks at 2-1, drop a few spots. He had them at the top. Where are the Bengals and the Steelers, you ask? The Bengals jump all the way up to number 17. 8 spots, as I mentioned. He writes, at 2-1, they have to be one of the biggest surprises so far after dominating the Steelers on Sunday. Now they have another winnable game at home against Jacksonville on Thursday. He has the Steelers dropping to 22nd. This is a bad team right now. The offense doesn't scare anybody. In fact, it's a downright mess. How did they beat the Bills? I think that's kind of a majority sentiment there in terms of I don't understand how they went in there week 1, but we've seen teams do things on week 1 that there are some frauds in week 1. I don't want to necessarily call the Steelers frauds for that win, but we know that sometimes the results in week 1 don't always tell the tale of how the rest of the season goes. In fact, I think I remember a Panthers team that went 1-15. I think they won a handful of years back with like Chris Winkie that won the first week and then didn't win. They lost like 15 straight or something. So, strange things happen all the time. Let's do one more. I think I've got another power ranking one here. Let's do one more power rankings. I see that so many of you are liking these power rankings. That's a little bit of sarcasm, but that's okay. This is on NFL.com. They have the Rams 1 there, Bucks 2, Packers 3, Bills 4, Chiefs all the way down to 6. They have the Browns at 8, Raiders at 9. They're 3-0. Crazy game with the Raiders this week. They have the Cardinals at 11 at 3-0. So quite a bit of a discrepancy between CBS Sports' ranking and where NFL.com has them. Titans at 15. Here's what's interesting. They have the Vikings at 16, a 1-2 team whom the Bengals beat in week 1. So they had them jumping the Seahawks all the way down to 17, dropping 8 spots there. And they have the Bengals at 19, up from 26. So they did move them up. They moved them up, 7 spots. So that's nice. And here is the rationale here. Entering week 3, only one team had allowed more sacks than the Bengals. This was a terrible trend, especially coming off of 2020. Man, they can't pivot off of this narrative here, especially coming off of a 2020 season in which number 1 overall pick Joe Burrow suffered a ghastly knee injury due to faulty blocking. Sunday's 24-10 win over the Steelers was a huge step forward for the team and an offensive line that allowed 0 sacks to a Steelers defense that had registered at least 1 quarterback takedown in 75 regular season games, which we had talked about earlier. Of course, Steelers played without their best pass rusher in TJ Watt, but the Bengals deserve credit for addressing their biggest concern while picking up a huge victory against a division opponent. Cincinnati can build some honest-to-goodness momentum with the winless Jaguars up next Thursday night. So, 19 there and 17 on the CBS Sports one there. So that's kind of the consensus at this point right now. Just a couple of other headlines before we hop out of here. Well, we're also going to give you a look at all the divisions too, so you're caught up on where everything is at in the NFL. Big game on Sunday night. Tom Brady is not looking to reminisce on Sunday. Quote, "I'm going to be thinking about one night of football." The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady go into Foxborough to play Bill Belichick, Mac Jones, and the new look Patriots. So Brady being very businesslike, as we expect. Bill doesn't even want to talk about Tom Brady. He wants to talk about other people. So just a very intriguing game. I'm sure it'll get high ratings, high viewership as the Patriots go host the Buccaneers and bring back Tom Brady for a very, very exciting Sunday night matchup. It's been a little bit of a mixed bag for New England this year, for sure, and with Mac Jones. So we'll see how that one plays out. Little bad news than good news on this one. Kind of scary. Andy Reid, Chiefs head coach, had a hospital stay following the game on Sunday. Was not feeling well, and then he is back, but he had a health scare. I don't know. He was feeling ill. Obviously if he was released and around the team and stuff, I don't think it's a COVID thing. He just was not feeling well and went to the hospital and was released Monday and is back in Kansas City. So glad to hear that Coach Andy Reid is doing better after going into the hospital shortly after the game on Sunday. Kind of scary stuff. Last but not least, let's talk about let's give you a picture of what's going on with this is the AFC, and we'll go over to the NFC in a little bit here. You see the Bills are on top after dropping that game against the Steelers in the opener. 2 wins, 1 loss, and they've really tipped the scales in terms of points forced, points allowed in their favor. So they are atop the division. The Dolphins 1-2 lost a heartbreaker. Tua was out last week. He's got the rib injury. So, they're 1-2. The Patriots, as I said, 1-2. They're not really impressing a whole bunch of people. And the Jets are a lowly 0-3. Zach Wilson showing some struggles. 20 points scored and 70 points allowed. Whoa, that is not a good statistic for the New York Jets. AFC West, you've got the Raiders and Broncos atop the division at 3-0. Raiders have had 2 overtime games in their first 3. So exciting season for them, to say the least. The Broncos look pretty solid. You see there, look at the point differential, 76 points scored against 26 allowed. That is going to be a tough game for the Bengals later in the season. The Chargers at 2-1, playing pretty well. Look at the differential. They're only 7, though. 67 points scored, 60 allowed. And then the Chiefs scoring a ton of points, but allowing a ton of points, sitting in the cellar at 1-2. Had a tough start to the season. They played the Chargers and the Ravens to kind of start off their season, and then I think the Browns was the first game too. So they've had 3 tough games to start the season. I expect them to right the ship a little bit there. AFC North, your Bengals are on top here, based on points allowed, I think is kind of what the where they have you. But I mean, they're tied up top with the Ravens and the Browns, all 2-1, and the Steelers sitting in the cellar at 1-2. I mean, it's going to be a tight race here, and the Bengals are making it a lot more interesting than I think a lot of people figured they would. We'll see what happens the rest of the way here, but everybody, at least most of them at 2-1, are feeling pretty good about things at this point in time. And then AFC South, the Titans are up top 2-1. Pretty awful division here. 1-2 are the Houston Texans. The Colts are 0-3. Jaguars are 0-3, and of course the Jaguars go to Cincinnati this week. And then on the NFC side, we had a Monday night game last night between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Eagles played awful. Cowboys took it to them. They are up top 2-1. Another kind of blah year for the NFC East, 1-2, 1-2, 0-3, following the Cowboys there. NFC West, a pretty competitive one here. 3-0 Rams, 3-0 Cardinals, 2-1 Niners, who lost a heartbreaker to the Packers on Sunday night. And then you've got the Seahawks at 1-2. NFC North, I mentioned the Packers just eked that one out against San Francisco. So they are up top 2-1 after getting shellacked in week 1. Bears at 1-2, their only win against the Bengals. Vikings 1-2, they did lose to the Bengals. And then you've got the Lions, who the Bengals they should have had that game against Baltimore. It took a miracle kick by Justin Tucker off the crossbar, a NFL record 66-yarder off the crossbar, and bounces in at the end of regulation to win that game. Bengals play the Packers also after the Jags there. So they're going to need to get a win here and heal up for that one for sure, because now the Packers are starting to feel pretty good about themselves. So the Bengals need to get a win here, heal up, take that long extra few days there and get healthier and try and take care of business against the Green Bay Packers, also at home. NFC South, Panthers are 3-0. They're playing really well. 69 points scored, 30 allowed. Buccaneers still playing pretty well. Took a loss there. They're at 2-1. Saints are 2-1. Hard team to figure out is New Orleans. And then the Falcons are 1-2 there. So pretty competitive division as well in the NFC South. Those are your standings right now across the league as we close up shop here. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for those of you who tuned in live, those of you who did not catch it live. You're always welcome to. If you're able to catch us live, we would love to have you join us live. But otherwise, get it after the fact on your favorite audio streamer, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, any of the big ones. Leave us a review if you can, whether it's for our show, whether it's for the other great shows on the Cincy Jungle Podcast Network. Please leave us a review. And so we would appreciate that. And then, of course, if you like the video stuff that we do on Orange and Black Insider, subscribe to, I think it's right over here. There's a little icon. You can click that. Of course, click the bell to be notified when we go live, when new stuff is available. And hey, if you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up on these videos. We appreciate that. But we just appreciate you hanging out with us, listening to some news about the Bengals, the NFL, all that. We've got a lot more coming to you this week. So keep it to us. Keep it to the Cincy Jungle podcast channel. And of course, keep it to cincyjungle.com for all your Bengals news, opinions, analysis, all that good stuff. And we will keep feeding you all kinds of material. Enjoy the rest of your week, folks.